All right. So as previously stated in my last video, I do a lot of online social media, especially Twitter, Facebook, and I debate a lot with people who put out false information. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I do it to a lot of conservatives, because honestly, I just don't have the time. And the reason I don't have the time is because there's so much misinformation and ignorance that is spewed by leftists and liberals and Democrats, whatever you want to call them. And it's not that I'm above calling out conservatives, because I have done it in the past and will continue to do so. But the overwhelming amount of BS that comes from liberals, just honestly, they latch on to like one phrase that's given in the media without reading anything beyond that one catchphrase or that one talking point, and that's what they latch on to and parrot ad nauseum. They just repeat it over and over and over. And this guy's that I'm about to show you in a screenshot is a prime example. He claims that the same thing that the Washington Post and others media outlets have claimed, that Trump dismantled or disbanded or shut down or whatever, basically shuttered the pandemic response team. Well, that's not true at all. I'm going to park while I do the rest of this because I've arrived at where I was going, so I'll finish this out and then I'll do what I came here to do. Literally 3 people out of the response team left the Trump administrations. All right, obviously I'm back home. So I decided to give you the names of the 3 people. Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer, Beth Cameron, and Tim Morrison. Those are the 3 people out of over 400 people that were on the pandemic response team. Those were the 3 people that abruptly left the Trump administration. Now, in a minute, you're going to hear me reference the Dallas Cowboys and how Jerry Jones, if he fired 3 coaches. The only problem is, in making that comparison, I should have caveated that fired was too strong of a term. Even a fact checker has said that the use of the word fired by other media outlets is kind of a strong word to use, because there's no way of determining if they were fired. Okay? Some of them may have left on their own accord. I'll post a screenshot of it. But basically what it says is to the effect that there was just abrupt changes. And they leave it at that. So other media outlets assumed that they had been fired, even though they didn't have any cooperation. They just happened to be in higher roles. I mean, their jobs were higher ranking. They weren't your average team member. That's according to the Washington Post. 3 people left that. One of them, 2 men and a woman, one of them named Tim Morrison. Now, what's funny about this is Tim Morrison released an opinion piece that was published by, shockingly, the Washington Post. And he literally says, now remember, he is one of the 3 people that was in a higher position on the response team, and he is literally saying that Trump didn't shutter or dismantle or whatever synonym or adjective you want to describe shutting down something. It didn't happen. Now, you actually have to read further down in a lot of articles in order to get this fact. But it still talks about how members of the team were still carrying out their responsibilities and their duties that they were before. They just weren't led by the same people. And so that brings me to this analogy. All right, and I'm going to use a team that everybody knows, okay? And everybody knows the owner. So let's say Jerry Jones of the Cowboys decides to fire the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator. That's 3 people. That does not mean that the Cowboys cease to exist. They stop playing football. It doesn't mean that Jerry Jones literally shuttered and discontinued the Dallas Cowboys. So the responsibilities of these 3 people were picked up and done by other people. They just didn't acquire that title that these 3 individuals had beforehand, but they were still fulfilling those same duties. Another talking point that he had was that Trump continued to hold rallies and play golf for 2 months while the coronavirus or COVID-19 spread unmitigated. Oh my God. I didn't even know how to describe that level of idiocy. All right, so the first confirmed case was January 19th. In the United States. Trump's last rally that I could find any record of would have been his rally in North Carolina on March the 2nd. Now, even if you take out the fact that February is a shortened month, if the first case was on January 19th and that gentleman who was tested was quarantined, that negates the unmitigated part because Trump, literally health officials kind of quarantined that one guy from going back out into the public. The 15 people, the original 15 as Trump calls them, they were also quarantined. And they come in at a later date. They were quarantined. So that negates the unmitigated part of his argument. But his argument was that Trump continued holding rallies for 2 months. So if you go from January 19th and you go up 2 months, the corresponding date would have to be March 19th. His last trip to a golf resort that has been documented was March 8th. He canceled future rallies 1 week March 11th, so a week and a day before the March 19th 2-month anniversary. Now, you can say Trump held rallies during this time for a little over a month. And you wouldn't be incorrect. But just to point out to you, the people that say that, the information known at January 19th, okay, was that the virus could not be spread between humans. That was the information being distributed around the globe. Okay? Now, obviously March was a lot different scenario, and we knew that it could be. But what you should also understand is during this same time frame that Trump is holding rallies, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, all these Democrats are literally telling people that it's safe, that it's okay to be out in public. Chuck Schumer went to the New York Chinese New Year parade. That's in February. I believe it's February 9th or 10th, somewhere around in there. And there he is with the crowd, just partying it up. You know, Nancy Pelosi's on TV going, "Here we are in Chinatown, and we're safe. Come out and join us." The initial idea was that the coronavirus was not going to be this bad. And that was parroted by the media. That was parroted by Democrats. That was parroted by, they literally showed their hand when they were doing these actions.
The risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is low, and our city preparedness is high.
This should not stop you from going about your life, should not stop you from going to Chinatown and going out to eat. I'm going to do that today myself.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us.
There is no concern at this time for coronavirus in our region.
The Department of Sanitation is ready for Mardi Gras 2020.
The facts are reassuring.
We want New Yorkers to go about their daily lives.
There's really no need to panic and to avoid activities that we always do as New Yorkers. We are a hardy people.
Americans do not need to panic. What I would suggest, however, is that Americans take this as a wake-up call for seasonal flu.
There's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu.
But all of a sudden now, Trump was doing the same thing as the Democrats, but it's only bad if Trump does it. That doesn't make sense. His 2-month line is bullshit. The other one was the test kits. Kits were inadequate. Well, there's a reason for that. And believe it or not, it doesn't have anything to do with Trump. The red tape, and I should have the article for this, but it was put out by MIT. The article was about the flaw in the CDC test. And the red tape that prevented other independent labs from double checking their work. This was set up long before Trump. Matter of fact, if you really want to, I don't know exactly when the red tape was, but I can tell you this. Those 3 people that left the Trump administration from the response team knew these regulations were in place or put them in place. And if they didn't put them in place but knew about them, they didn't take them away. So Not exactly sure you can lay the blame of that on at Trump's feet because, like I said, number one, he didn't develop the test. Number two, it wasn't his policies that led to that red tape that prevented someone else catching the faulty test. But once the tests were found to be faulty, Trump's reaction to that is to get as many private companies producing as many tests as possible. I'm not exactly sure what the disconnect is for Democrats or liberals. I can't follow their logic train of thought with that. So it is what it is. But I just wanted to put those myths to bed, okay? And if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty about how Trump's response to this was, I want to make a comparison. The day after, and I can't remember the date, but the WHO declared H1N1 a national health emergency. The very next day, the Obama administration followed their cue and did the same thing. Obama declared H1N1 a national health emergency. On January 30th, 2020, the WHO did the same thing. They declared the coronavirus a national health emergency. The very following day, January 31st, Trump followed their cue and did the exact same thing. He labeled the coronavirus a national health emergency. Now, to add to that, not only did Trump declare a national health emergency the day after the WHO did, he actually went against something that the WHO had said, and they recommended no travel restrictions. Trump put travel restrictions on travel from China on the same day that he declared it a national health emergency. That move was criticized by Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, several others. They all condemned Trump, saying that his banning or travel restriction was somehow racist. Now, the funny part to that is later they would use Trump sending PPEs that were donated from private organizations to China. We, the American government, literally just shipped private donations to the Chinese people. So, in one breath, they're calling Trump a racist for using terms like the Chinese virus and restricting travel from China. And in the very next breath, condemning him for sending aid to the same Chinese people that they said that he was racist against. What? How stupid does that? I mean, You have to be on a whole nother level of dumbassery for that one. Here is where the Trump administration differs from the Obama administration. The day after the WHO labels the coronavirus a pandemic, so does Trump. And he puts in place a lot of policies geared toward lowering the exposure. When the WHO declared H1N1 a pandemic, it took the Obama administration 6 more months to declare a pandemic. Okay, a small correction. I kept saying that Trump and Obama had declared a pandemic. I kept using the incorrect term. What they declared after the WHO declared H1N1 and the coronavirus pandemics, it took Trump 1 day or 2 days, I believe it was one, to declare a national emergency and less than 50 dead. It took Obama 6 months, and I believe in the video I said 12,000. I think it was actually 1,200 deaths before he declared a national emergency. Their responses once it was declared a pandemic couldn't have been more polar opposites. Trump took it seriously. Obama was more lax about it. And I don't care what you say or how you say it, but waiting 6 months and for over 1,000 people to die compared to 1 or 2 days and less than 50 speaks volumes. There is a huge difference. Obama waited till something like over 12,000 people had died. Trump did it with less than 50. Yes, the coronavirus is worse than H1N1. But the response to a pandemic, here's the key thing. We had no idea exactly how bad H1N1 was going to be at the beginning. And it's for the same reasons we didn't know how bad the coronavirus was going to be at the very beginning of this. It's too early to have a lot of detailed information. So stop pointing fingers. Stop panicking. Do some research beyond what the media tells you. And enjoy your life as much as you can. Take common sense measures. Now, I'm not telling people not to go out and do things. I'm not. I'm certainly not telling you to put your health at risk. All right? Just use common sense. If you go out in public, if you go to the park, or if you go out somewhere where you're going to be in close proximity to other people, wear a mask. Carry hand sanitizer. If you can't find it to buy it, you can actually make your own. Just Google it. Keep your social distancing if you choose to. If you're wearing a mask and some of these other things, I don't guess it would necessarily be essential to keep the 6 foot, but just rule of thumb, do what you can to mitigate being in someone's face. Also, when you go shopping or you go behind people and you touch the keypads or you pick up boxes and you look at them and look at the ingredients or whatever you do at the supermarket and then you put it back. Other people do that too. So don't rub your eyes. Don't pick your nose. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. I mean, use common sense. And once you get out of the shopping area, once you get away from the hand cart that everybody's touched, and you get away from the keypad and all this, use hand sanitizer. Even if you make it at home with alcohol and whatever other ingredients there are. I just happen to have some that I bought, so I don't have to make my own, but you can. And then wash your hands after you put up your groceries or whatever it is that you've brought home into your home. I would advise putting it in containers if you can. But, you know, it's not necessary if you're, I think it can live up to like 3 days on plastic. So if you're not going to use it immediately, it's going to sit in the shelf for a while, you know, leave it there. Who cares? But that's just it. Just wash your hands after you touch something. Use hand sanitizer. Wear a face mask out in public if you want to. Just use common sense, people. That's all it is. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Love y'all.